akong panaginip.
Meron akong minimithing isang bansang taglay ang pangako ng
kapayapaan at pag-asa. Dapat lang isipin at paghandaan ang halalan ng kinabukasan.
Pilipinas,
iparinig ang ating tinig.
Pilipinas,
makiisa at makibahagi.
tandaan tamang pagboto, gusto at tamang bilang.
Pilipinas, ingatan ng bayan. Saan mang dako ng Pilipinas, sari-saring kultura.
Isang ibig, isang awit, alang-alang sa ng bayan.
Dapat lang isipin at paghandaan ang halalan ng kinabukasan.
Pilipinas,
iparinig ang ating tinig.
Pilipinas,
makiisa at makibahagi.
tandaan tamang pagboto, gusto at tamang bilang.
Pilipinas, ingatan ng bayan.
Ating dangalay alagaan, maging tapat, huwag kalimutan. Ingatan ng bayan.
Pilipinas kong mahal. Pilipinas, Pilipinas kong mahal. Pilipinas kong mahal. Pilipinas kong mahal. Pilipinas, kinabukasan ay nasa ating kamay. Mag-iisa at makiugnay, at piliin mo ang tama para sa bansa. Pakinggan aming tinig. Pilipinas, iparinig ang ating tinig. Pilipinas, makiisa at makibahagi.
Tandaan tamang pagboto, gusto at tamang bilang.
Pilipinas, ingatan ng bayan.
Ating dangalay alagaan, maging tapat, huwag kalimutan. Ingatan ng bayan.
Mayroon akong panaginip.
Meron akong minimithing isang bansang taglay ang pangako ng
kapayapaan at pag-asa. Dapat lang isipin at paghandaan ang halalan ng kinabukasan.
Pilipinas,
iparinig ang ating tinig.
Pilipinas,
makiisa at makibahagi.
tandaan tamang pagboto, gusto at tamang bilang.
Pilipinas, ingatan ng bayan. Saan mang dako ng Pilipinas, sari-saring kultura.
Isang ibig, isang awit, alang-alang sa ng bayan.
Dapat lang isipin at paghandaan ang halalan ng kinabukasan.
Pilipinas,
iparinig ang ating tinig.
Pilipinas,
makiisa at makibahagi.
tandaan tamang pagboto, gusto at tamang bilang.
Pilipinas, ingatan ng bayan.
Ating dangalay alagaan, maging tapat, huwag kalimutan. Ingatan ng bayan.
Pilipinas kong mahal. Pilipinas, Pilipinas kong mahal. Pilipinas kong mahal. Pilipinas kong mahal. Pilipinas, kinabukasan ay nasa ating kamay. Mag-iisa at makiugnay, at piliin mo ang tama para sa bansa. Pakinggan aming tinig. Iparinig ang ating tinig, Pilipinas. Makiisa at makibahagi.
Tandaan tamang pagboto, gusto at tamang bilang.
Pilipinas, ingatan ng bayan. Pilipinas,
Ating dangalay alagaan.
Pilipinas,
Maging tapat, huwag kalimutan. Ingatan ng bayan.
Ten, nine, eight, seven, six, five, four, three, two, one, zero. Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فقال ربكم ادعوني أستجب لكم آمين يا رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم اجمع شامل المسلمين والكريستيان والأمة في مدينة دباو وسلم دائما مجتمعنا هذا بالسلم والأمن والتقدم في بلدنا هذا آمين يا رب العالمين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين يا رب العالمين.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today to praise and worship you and give you thanks for all the things you continue to provide for ourselves and our families. Father, we humbly ask for forgiveness for all the times we have offended you, when we forget to acknowledge your presence in the image of our brothers and sisters, and for moments we fail to be good stewards of the blessings you have given us. Continue to guide and protect each one of us, Lord, that we may always walk in the light of your everlasting love and mercy. Grant us, Father, with your comfort in times of distress and with your strength in times of weakness. Bestow upon us your unending grace and healing, that we may in turn become instruments of gentleness and compassion to others. We ask all this in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, with the prayer and the intercession of our Blessed Mother. Amen.
Manama, mabantog ka. Warag po ko iling ko'y ko. O Diyos, kahibulungan ka. Busa ikaw lang ang simbahon ko. Busa ikaw lang ang alagaran ko.
Toto'y bilisan mo ang takbo. Ilaga ng mga bombang nakatutok sa mo. Toto'y tumalon ka, tumapa kung kailangan. Katamaan pa ng mga bala. Sigaw. Toto'y nakinig ka, huwag kang magpagabi. Kapag kamalan ka't humandusay dyan sa tabi. Toto'y alam mo ba kung ano ang punot-tulot ng di matapos-tapos na kaguluhan? Ito, hindi pulat ilaw, tunay na magdalaga. Ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan, at ang hustisya'y para na sa mayaman. Habang may tatsulok at sila ang nasa tuktok, di matatapos itong gulo. Ligtas ang hininga ng kairaming mga tao, at ang dating munting bukid ngayon'y sementeryo. Todo ay kumilos, kabalik na rin ang tatsulok, tulad ng dukha nilalagay mo sa tuktok. Hindi pulat dilaw, tunay na magkalaman, ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan, at ang hustisya'y para lang sa mayaman. Habang may tatsulok at sila ang natutuktok, di matatapos itong gulo. Hindi pula nilang tunay na magkalaban, ang kulay at tatak ay di siyang dahilan. Hanggat marami ang lugmok sa kahirapan, at ang hustisya'y para lang sa mayaman. Habang magkaksunod at sila ang nasa tuktok, di matatapos itong gulo. Habang may tatsulok at sila ay nasa tuktok, di matatapos itong gulo. Di matatapos itong gulo.
Ato ng sugdan karon. And ako si Maria Samantha Manaloto, and we are your hosts for today. Tricks. Like sa. Tricks yung mic. Sorry kay saan. Sorry for the technical difficulties, no? Wait lang sa takay Trixie kay murag na siya problem sa iyang audio. So, hi everyone. Maayong buntag sa tanan, no? Maayong buntag sa mga viewers nato karon sa CU, and welcome to our election empowerment. And we are hoping no nga with Trixie and I and all the clubs nga kanang apil ani nga event, affiliated ani na event. I hope nga maka-learn mo something and unta naamoy maponder no nga after ani nga event maka-help ni sa inyo ha, especially to those nga makabotar na nga magpili sa sakto nga tao nga ato dapat angay butaran sa maabot na May 2022 elections. I would like to mention the clubs affiliated for this election empowerment event, headed by the Supreme Student Government of CU Senior High School, Zonta Club of CU Senior High School, Capital Correspondents, Crescendo Music Club, and yes,
Hi
nagka
Sam, maduog na ba ko?
hi.
Mic test, am I audible?
Madunggan naka-check sa dunggan
Oh my
naka,
God,
madunggan
thank you.
na
I'm
ba?
so sorry for that, Wizards and Capitalians. I'm so sorry. Good. So, Bird, take two. Pwede mo ito mag-take two?
Sige, among ingon among tagline ni Trixie no for today's video.
Kung kami ang kaugmaon,
Ato nang sugdan karon. So Trix,
May
ako
bon-
na di ay na ano ang mga clubs no nga affiliated. And unsa man imong ano ani Trix ka ng mga expectation ani na event to daghan kay ga comment. Hello everyone.
hello everyone. So, nag-expected ko nga ang engagement bitaw og kanang at the end of this event kay murag ma-open ang mind, mamulat ang mind sa atong fellow wizards na ay kani dapat atong pilion na kandidato. Kani dapat nga tao atong pilion nga leader sa atong lungsod ug sa atong nasod. How about you, Sam?
Ako po Trix, same tag expectations nga unta katong mga undecided pa bitaw kay makatabang ni sa ilaha nga kanang time para maka-discern na bitaw kung kinsa ang ilahang botaran jud. Hello sa mga ga-comments na. And speaking of which, I mentioned nga apil ang Supreme Student Government sa CU Senior High School ani, and from CU Student Government, we are mag-open na punta, magpasigay na punta sa atong leadership training karong umaabot na April 2, and kanang details will be sent sa inyong mga GC or kanang mag-post kami kung kinsa man tong mga aspiring leaders no. Please kanang basin gusto mo magtabang sa mga sa SSG and pwede mahimo mo sa mo ang kanang kaapil mo sa amoa. So without further ado, para maghatag nato og pasiunang guide and insight sa unsaon pag-discern and decision kung kinsa bay angayan sa atong mga votes o kinsay angayan nga mangulo sa atong nasod. Let us welcome og atong paminawon atong Senior High School Principal, Dr. 𝐊𝐀𝐁𝐀𝐍.
Good morning, dear senior high school students of Capital University. I'm very pleased to join you today as you embark on this very important event to prepare your schoolmates, your friends, and probably your families for this very important right that we will exercise, the right of suffrage, that is to be able to vote freely without coercion coming from our heart, the leaders for our country. Unfortunately, right now, because of the proliferation of the misuse of media, we are appalled by the blatant and subtle distortion, manipulation, cover-up, repression, and abuse of the truth, like historical revisionism, the distortion of history or its denial, the proliferation of fake news and false stories, disinformation, the seeding of false information and narratives in order to influence the opinion of the people, to hide the truth, to malign and blackmail people. We heard that there are troll farms which sow the virus of lies. But let us examine ourselves. Perhaps too we sow the virus of lies which spreads widely and numb our consciences. This virus paralyzes our capacity to recognize God, respect truth, and goodness. And perhaps we have not realized that there is a pandemic of lies, not only the pandemic brought about by COVID-19. So this is very serious. Now, I truly appreciate your election empowerment, you call it. And the idea is to really give to the people the voice to choose. You see, an election is like a hiring process through which those qualified for public office are chosen. Voters do the hiring through ballots they cast. So voters must frame questions for candidates to answer, just like when employers interview the job applicants. And now we are the employers. And so the job applicants are these candidates who parade themselves, who offer themselves to head the country as president, vice president, senators, and the local, the congressmen and the local mayors, governors who will run the country and the community. So they are very, very important. I mean, it's very important that we as voters learn more about our candidates and evaluate and vote whoever are most suitable for the job and who are supportive of key issues. In casting ballots, voters pick leaders and choose a direction for the nation. You have to keep this in mind. This is our power, and we cannot just sell it. We cannot just take it for granted. We cannot take only on face value what they give. And so I would like us to consider the 5 CU core values. And they are very important. What are the 5 CU core values? Here we have criteria for choosing candidates using the CU core values. The core values of Capital University, namely character, competence, commitment, culture, and care, are all very important foundation of the total person development who will serve as catalyst for social transformation. Since we, as Capitolians, are familiar with our core values, let us use them as our yardstick in choosing our leaders. Let us use the same core values to define the characteristics of a good leader that we're looking for. So let's start with character. What is character? According to our definition at CU, we strive to develop the total person, one who has a strong foundation of integrity, courage, and moral virtue. CU prepares her students to be engaged catalysts of hope and change in challenging times by developing their social consciousness and ethical leadership. So, we frame the questions based on our definition of character. Therefore, is your candidate or is the candidate honest in both words and actions and open to accountability? Has he or she been involved in graft and corruption or human rights violations? Because we know that only a candidate with integrity can boldly begin systematic changes and see them through to eradicate corruption and reform public service. This is what we call moral ascendancy. Next question, does the candidate fight for truth against disinformation and historical revisionism and values honesty and will never use deceit in campaigning or deliberately sow disinformation? Those are the questions under character. Next, value. It's competence. Definition of competence, CU seeks to transform students into professionals who are equipped with the knowledge, skills, and values necessary to enable them to respond to challenges and excel in the modern global arena. All this you see in the CU handbook. So you're very familiar and we give this to you. Now, what questions do we ask under competence? Is the candidate a professional whose capacity should come from personal experiences and aptitudes and not from relatives, not because of the names or other patrons? Personal professional capacity. Next, does the candidate know how the pandemic that we are in now threatens human life in relation to labor, to food, to health security, to health, security, and education? Does the candidate have a sound economic plan to alleviate poverty? We always are very poor and we always run at the bottom because of poverty. Does the candidate have a sound plan to promote job and food security to start with? So those are under competence. Next value is commitment. CU's total person is dedicated to excellence in all endeavors. CU ingrains among her students the value of hard work and a sense of responsibility not only for their personal duties but also their role in the greater community. They know that the future of the country and the world rests in the work of their hands. Questions? Does the candidate's work ethic embody the dignity of work? Does he even know how to work? Real hard work. Does the candidate respect the dignity of the office being sought, promoting pride and a sense of mission in public service? Will you be happy to introduce your country's president, your country's senators, your town's mayor, etc.? Citizens' trust should be repaid by responsible fulfillment of duties. Last question under commitment. Does the candidate profess to have clear direction for education, particularly in this time, those children in the public schools? You see, the last 2 years due to the pandemic, they changed, of course, like all of us did, into distance education. But children still need to be taught physically, personally, to be able to learn how to read, how to count, and all those. So does the candidate know how to address that deficiency? We go to the next core value, which is culture. CU cultivates excellence in the arts, letters, and scholarly pursuits for the enrichment of the Filipino nation. CU also fosters progressive and tolerant individuals who appreciate and respect diverse cultures. We have very many indigenous peoples, therefore different cultures, beliefs. Do we respect religions of others? Identities. We have the Muslims, we have the Tagalog, we have the Cebuanos, and are nationalistic. So the questions we pose are, does the candidate value and embrace all that is good in Filipino culture and identity? Do they speak our language? Are they proud when they talk of Filipino culture and the Philippines? Important question, is the candidate ready to protect Philippine territory and conserve natural resources to benefit people now and for generations to come? Does the candidate profess nationalism and love for the Philippines more than his or her personal or family needs? And the last value, the culture of care. CU engenders a culture of care characterized by showing concern, kindness, affection, and respect for other people. This begins by molding compassionate individuals with a sincere appreciation of the value of each person. So the questions asked are, does the candidate fight for the sanctity of life and respect the dignity of the person? Does the candidate value human rights and civil liberties, open to participatory decision-making by expanding citizen involvement in governance? In other words, are your voices heard? Are our voices heard? Do they ask for our participation? Does the candidate have a genuine concern for the poor, a concern consistently practiced by both the candidate and his or her family? Is the candidate ready to protect the integrity of creation and the environment? This means championing radical environmental programs that focus on education, conservation, simplicity, as well as the empowerment of farmers, fisher folk, and indigenous peoples. These, my dear students, are the CU core values and the questions that we ask based on our CU core values. Please take the time to discern. I will provide you the same sheet of paper where people begin to look at it, where you, the students, will read and answer for yourselves the question. Therefore, if your candidates are uh, going to answer correctly, if I may, the questions posed, then we are sure that we are electing good candidates. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you what we think are important questions to consider, because these are based on our CU core values, the values we would like you to develop, which we can expect our leaders to have developed among themselves. So thank you and have a good morning.
Wow, daghang salamat kay Doc Amor, no? Tricks, grabe sa katong short talk lang ni Doc Amor. Grabe ang pag-ponder, no? Nga, nice kaayo nga, ang questions, dapat ang analogy na gihatag ni Doc ba nga, muna kita ang employer, then ang mga candidates, ang gusto silang magpa-hire sa to ano. So, ato ang questions gyud dapat kay i-align sa CU core values. And katong na-line na ni-struck sa ako nag-ingon ni Doc. Respect the truth. Especially, grabe gyud ang fake news of disinformation, di ba, Trix?
True, Sam. Daghan yun kayo, nagkalat yun ang fake news, no? O misinformation sa ato ang social media, bisan unsa nga social media platform. Munang usa sa problem and controversies during the election campaign. Pero, nakabalo ba sa dang uban about sa mga problems, past issues, mga social issues for the past years and the past 6 years sa atong nasod? Ba? Mga tanata. Sige.
Kabalo ba?
Ato ang sugdan karon.
So, kani siya, among video na sunod ipakita, kay mo ni siyang mga past issues and controversies for the past 6 years and sa last year pod. Ug unta, paminaw mo sa amo ang ipang istorya and kanang na may makatunan. Take it right away.
Hi, the name is Sam. I am a grade 12 student from STAN Nursing Aid Strand. This pandemic has made me realize how deep is the underlying meaning of the quote, "We are just in the same sea, we are not in the same boat." We are all victims of incompetence, even way before the pandemic started. Only that with COVID-19 in the picture, it worsened the situation, especially in the case of our Lumad brothers and sisters. Lumad is a Bisaya term that means native or indigenous. It collectively pertains to the indigenous people inhabiting the lands of Mindanao. They comprise about 13 ethnic groups, namely Blaan, Bukidnon, Higaonon, Mamanwa, Mandaya, Manobo, Mansaka, Sangir, Subanen, Tagabawa, Tagakaulo, Tasaday, and Tibuli according to kidsconnect.com website. While mainstream public and private schools adapted to either online or modular learning modalities due to the pandemic, Lumad schools suffered forced closures instigated by their local government and the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, with the same schemes of rad tagging. With this, nearly 10,000 Lumad students are defranchised, as more than 178 Lumad schools have been shut down since 2019, according to the data of Save Our Schools Network. The full rescue operation last February 15, conducted by the police and government agencies in Cebu Bakwit School, where teachers and students were arrested and detained for 3 months despite having no case against them. The massacre, which happened in 𝙆𝙀𝐷 last June 15, who took 2 innocent lives of students who were once studying a tribal Filipino program of Surigao del Sur. The destruction of buildings and textbooks in Mindanao Interfaith Services Foundation Incorporation, or MISFI Academy in Bukidnon, is sad to say just few of the many instances where the lives and rights of Lumad people are being attacked. Places where Lumads live only have few schools, forcing them to travel long distances where possible danger awaits and incur additional expenses. Lumad schools' curriculum is catered based on their culture and the needs of their community. And most often than not, Lumads who are enrolled in mainstream public schools suffer day-to-day discrimination, not only from their teachers and classmates, but also from the educational system that fails to acknowledge their unique culture. While we are all at it struggling during this pandemic on how to cope and adapt with the newly established learning modalities, our Lumad brothers and sisters continue to struggle and fight for their rights to education. Panawagan sa lahat ng tatakbong kandidato sa paparating na 2022 elections. Hinaing ng minorya ay bigyan ng pansin. Stop the attacks. Stop Lumad killings. Ligtas na balik eskwela para sa lahat ng mag-aaral. Karapatan sa edukasyon ng bawat kabataan ay protektahan. Hindi natatapos sa pagpaparehistro ang laban para sa pantay na karapatan at oportunidad para sa lahat. Ganun pa man, isa itong malaking hakbang para tayo ay mayroong masimulan. May we all acknowledge our privileges in life and help in ways we can. Magparehistro ka.
Education is the passport to our success. Without the accessibility of learning, how far will our youth build their future? How far will our nation prioritize our educators and learners amidst the crisis we're currently facing? As schools transition their learning modalities to a digitalized maintenance, teachers and students are hard to cope with implementations imposed by the government's budget cut to our education sector. How will this impact our citizens, especially those coming from low-income families? Join us as we tackle the effects of restoring budget cuts to our education sector. I'm 𝙆𝙖𝙩𝙪𝙣𝙬, your anchor for today's Voters Campaign Series for CU Lead and Involve. How does restoring budget cuts to our education sector cause detrimental effects to our learners and educators? Reducing allocation to our education sector can potentially decrease schools and universities' performances in delivering their learning resources towards the learners. Insufficient funding of our education sector can also affect the teachers' incentives and students' performance in both social and economic aspects.
Restoration on a budget cut of schools can affect the teacher's social aspect, which can impose a challenge in structuring the curricula for the learners due to lack of learning materials. It can diminish their pivotal role in assisting the students with no digital resources, and the lack of facilitation in the workforce in delivering their lessons to the learners. Restoration on a budget cut of schools can affect the teacher's economic aspect, such as increased workloads but with little to no compensation to their service, lower hiring of educators to the education sector, and forced closure of schools. Restoration on a budget cut of schools can affect the students' social aspect. It can slash their accessibility of resources, mainly textbooks and digital technology. It could affect their performance due to the budget cut of newly updated learning resources, and it could potentially decrease the graduation rates amongst the youth. Restoration on a budget cut of schools can also affect the students' economic aspect. Students coming from low-income families will be forced to drop out of school. Due to economic constraints, they might be forced to engage in labor. It would undermine their ability to develop their intelligence and skills in conforming to the workforces in the next generation.
The causalities mentioned above prove that school funding can positively correlate to the standing of a school's performance in the global economy. So why is school funding necessary?
Investing in the education sector is crucial to the provision of our schools and promoting the quality of learning for ever-enrolled students in our nation. Moreover, it can also reinforce schools and universities' financial support for teaching resources and equipment, resulting in upskilling the excellence of educators towards this process.
A global partnership of education study acclaimed that education can reduce the upsurge of poverty and boost our economy's gross domestic product indicator.
A GDP is defined by the goods and services allotted by our country's economic performance. In other words, GDP is the health indicator of our economy, which explains that the government must appease to support funding in our education sector and realizing the future of the youth, together with providing the incentive of our educators.
As we combat the impending recession in our nation, we must all put in mind that education must be set aside. That is why in this upcoming election, we must vote for a leader who empowers the importance of education that serves a paramount in the youth's promising future. Once again, this is 𝙆𝙪𝙪𝙤𝙪, and let us all vote upright and wise for this upcoming PDI 2021.
As the world finds new paths to overcome the long and tiring war with COVID, some are able to finally see the light. But there is another war that not all of us knew existed, and one that we have been carrying on our backs even before COVID started, and that is our mental health. Like all of us, we have seen our lives thrown upside down and our routines disrupted. Students have to face their gadgets instead of facing each other, others even in total isolation. Teachers unmotivated and unsure if their students at all learned anything, judging from the silence on the other end. Frontliners' unending flow of patients, thinking, who would they have to send to the ICU, and those they will be able to say can go home. These are just some of the internal battles that I am talking about. Some are even much worse or will get worse if we don't find a way to fight this unseen battle. That is why, no matter where we are or whatever situation we are in, we must find a way to get help. Here in Cagayan de Oro City, we are surrounded with just that. The Philippine Mental Health Association, the Lead Psychological Services, and the New Day Recovery Center are just some of the many that could help you. We must not turn away and run from help if it is given to us when we most need it. Instead, we must acknowledge and give ourselves the chance to heal. Because to fight the war with the pandemic, we must be capable of fighting it with strength and the right mind.
Hi everyone, I am Rika May B. Sagano from grade 11 Pastor. I will be sharing to you my insight on one of the hot issues in our country today, and that is about the issue on safe reopening of classes, or in layman's term, the comeback of face-to-face class. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected everyone and everything. To name one, the educational system worldwide. It led to the near total closure of educational institutions in an attempt to reduce the spread of COVID-19. But the closure of schools for the past 2 years made students want to bring face-to-face classes back to interact with friends and, as they call, an easier mode of learning without the need for internet services and technology. But is it really easier? And can I add, is it safe considering the crisis that we have today? My opinion is supported by facts of true-to-life experience by other leading countries, which, like us here in the Philippines, had and is still experiencing COVID up to this day. Let's take, for example, China. In China, when students were told that the school were safe to open, it led to a second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic that contributed to the addition of 107,400 confirmed cases, and on the survey led to 78.9% of parents to prefer online classes. We all want our normal lives back. But if the normal way will bring us harm, it's better to adjust and adapt to the new norm than force on implementing the old norm, which one way or another could harm us. Opening of schools still remains as a debatable issue not only in the Philippines but worldwide. Yes, I would love to bring face-to-face classes back. Who doesn't, right? But with the current situation we are in, I think we should enforce on allowing minors to get vaccinated first. Yes, vaccination is not the key to obliterating COVID, but it is one of the ways we can lessen the spread of the virus. It is also an additional protection we could have aside from the basic protection of wearing face shield, face mask, and hand washing. As of the moment, we all know that only those who are 18 plus are allowed to get vaccinated. Studies are still being conducted for the vaccine rollout for 18 years old and under. So unless and until we are sure of our safety, it is best for us to just delay the face-to-face classes. After all, if there's a will, there's a way. If we are willing to learn, we can always find a way to learn. No matter what circumstances we are facing, we can conquer this, everyone.
A pleasant day to you all. I'm 𝐊𝐀𝐁𝐀𝐍, and I am going to tackle about Internet Service Aid. As we all know, COVID-19 has become a major problem, especially to us students, because as COVID-19 spread across the world, the use of video conferencing solutions and online collaboration tools have skyrocketed. Thus, internet connectivity is crucial to successfully working and learning from home. And speaking of the internet, the Philippines ranked one of the lowest as the 110th country in terms of internet speed, which can really affect the daily lives of the people who study and work from home, since majority of us do not have a good internet bandwidth. Online classes have now emerged, and a lot of students have chosen these compared to modular classes. Thus, we cannot oversee the fact that a lot of us students have lots of problems with the internet. According to the data, here are some problems that students encounter in online classes. Number 1 is the loss of the internet or data during an online class. Number 2 is the inability to load the online materials such as modules and Google Forms. Number 3 is having to experience a poor audio or video during a class. And lastly is having a poor internet connection due to too many simultaneous users in the house at once. These problems that I've mentioned are sadly true and inevitable to happen to all students right now. In my opinion, I really think that having a poor internet connection would really affect the lives of us students. It would become one of the biggest hindrances and challenge that we have to overcome as a student in an online class, since after all, I had also experienced these types of problems, and I know for sure that it would really give us a big disadvantage in having a poor connection. From that, we can see that a reliable and fast internet connection really gives us a big upper hand, offers a lot of convenience, and allow us to extensively complete tasks with much less hassle. Thus, with a good internet connection, we can work, educate ourselves, entertain ourselves, and do things productively.
2019 research shows that the Philippines has the highest dropout rate among all ASEAN countries, with 6.38% of elementary pupils and 7.82% of secondary school students.
Unsay imong grado pagsugod sa pandemic?
Grade 7.
Nalisod ba ka sa distance learning?
Oo, galisod manggay ko bisan na naihatag na lesson, naman gyud libog ug lisod sabton lahi ra gyud pag naay motudlo ug naay mapangutan-an. Sila sad mama ug papa gatrabaho man gyud pati akong magulang.
Kabalo ba ka nga gataas ang kaso sa dropout o pagundang karong pandemic?
Oo, kay mas lisod man gud ang panahon karon. Galisod ang kadaghanan kulangan sa mga gamit ug tarong na internet. Busa mas pilion na lang sa uban nga mounda. Ang uban sad maningkamot para makatabang sa kalisod sa pamilya.
Naa ba kay gakailangan iuntang og eskwela karong pandemic?
Oo, nagi ko'y nailhan nga mas gipili niya nga di sa mag-eskwela kay galisod sa siya. Dili niya makayo wala sa suporta gikan sa iyang ginikanan.
Isip po sa kabataan, unsay mo gusto
Muta matagaan og solusyon ang problema sa pandemya. Tungod bang gud ani, mas naglisod ug mas natagaan og rason mapugos ug undang ang kabataan.
Admittedly, the Department of Education �10-K-12 enrollment jumped about 14% for 3.8 million students to 23.2 million for the 2020-2021 school year, significantly reducing 27.7 million enrollees in 2018. This worrying number of new dropouts due to pandemic perpetuates an already high number of out-of-school youths. 9.3% of the projected 39.2 million Filipinos aged 6 to 24 years old are classified as OSYs in 2017, in accordance with the Philippine Statistics Authority data. In past years, the dropout rate of the country has already been seen. Common reasons of family matters, health problems, high cost of education, and financial inability. At the same time, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on education is perceived. Filipino youth students are forced to adapt to distance learning with upshot of frightening growing population of dropouts. Revamp the system and safe reopening of schools. Kami isip parte sa kabataan, mga yuukon kayto na plano alang sa luwas na pagbalik sa pag-abre sa atong mga eskwelahan. Na anay saktong pamaagi na nagasunod sa kaayuhan sa kahimsog sa katawhan. Kung kami ang kaugmaon, ato ng sugdan karon.
Wow, Sam! That was a really dagang kay ko napudyot adto no nga. Murag muday ni ang mga nahitabo past 6 years o gakahitabo hantud karon. I hope no nga atong fellow Capitolians na open nilang mind if ever nga dili sila aware nga nay nga nga panghitabo sa atong nasod og na open nilang mga mata nga kailangan nato leader, kailangan nato mo kuha og leader, mo boto og leader nga naay plano, naay konkreto nga programa para masolusyonan kini nga mga problema. Right, Sam?
Sakto kayo, Trix, kato siya ng mga issues nga gi-play balik kay na-refresh gyud akong mind no kay gibuhat man nato siya last year. So maayo kay siya nga avenue karon nga gipakita nato ang mga pressing issues and controversies last year kay sama sa imong giingon nga need nato leader nga nay sakto nga plataporma og concrete and kanang makita siya transparent ng iyang plano para sa atong nasod. And speaking of transparency and transparent, guys, our first code is transparency. Please ko og kanang take notes kay we will be sending the link after ani na program. So again, first code is transparency.
Transparency. So aside ato Sam, so murag na refresh natong mind nga nadi nga panghitabo sa ato ang lungsod, sa atong nasod. I've heard Sam nga i-test daw nato ang kanang ability sa atong fellow Capitolians sa Philippine election history. Now do tayo pa-game, Sam. Tinood ba na?
Yes, Trix. Yes, tinood na. Ang akong pangutana, game ka na ba?
Game na!
Iparinig ang ating tinig.
So hi Capitolians! Comment down below sa inyong mga answers aning quiz game nato. So game na ba mo? Kung game na mo, let's
game
start.
Na sa comments. So atong pagasugdan sa una nga question. Game na daw. How many have been the presidents who have led the Philippines? So pila na ka presidente ang nakalingkod sa Pilipinas? Again, how many have been the presidents who have led the Philippines? Oy, ana si Ray, I believe 203 billion. Grabe, daghan na pud kaayo.
Daghan na pud kaayo. Ana si Sir Adrian, 16. Tama ba ka ha? Ala, daghan na yun. Medado Adrian, na siya, 13.
Higher, bunker? Higher, di ba, Trix? Higher?
Yes, higher, higher, no?
So, daghan na ako nakita nga tama na answer. So, the correct answer is 16 presidents. Wow!
Wow!
Research ane.
So, let's move to our second question. Who won by a landslide during the first national election in the Philippines? Who daw? Who? Kinsa? Kinsa man ni siya? Kinsa kanino? Comment down below, guys. Kinsa man, kinsa.
Kinsa daw, be? Wala pa ko'y nakita nga pangalan.
Wala pa ko'y nakita. Wala pa po. Murag basin late.
Name drop daw.
Name drop. Manuel Quezon. Ala.
Napoy nag-ingon si Duterte.
Si Duterte daw.
Si Duterte ba? Isa pa?
Bek,
Keep your
isa pa.
answers coming, guys.
Manuel
Kani
L.
kay
Quezon. Kani complete yun. Rodrigo Duterte. Napoy nga, si Kuan. Kitsa man ang Kuan.
Daghan naman kay Kuan.
So I see the comments coming nga, murag daghan nga, murag nasakto sila answer. So the right answer is Manuel L. Quezon.
Next question. When was the first national Philippine election? Again, when was the first national Philippine election? When man ni siya, guys? So date siya, complete date dapat. Complete date, month, day, and year. When was the first national Philippine election?
When, guys? When?
When, guys? Dili where? Nag-answer na ni Philippines.
September 16. Murag kulang
What year man?
What year? 1935. Unsa lang 1935? Year na pinag-drop ra this year.
Hoy, nakoy nakita nga tama, Trix.
Naana Sam.
So, ang tama na answer kay September 16, 1935.
Okay, next question. What Philippine government granted the right to vote for Filipino women? Unsa daw nga Philippine government ang naghatag og karapatan sa mga babae sa una nga makabotar na the right to suffrage for Filipina?
Yes, sa una daw. Sa una daw mga lalaki ra daw ang makavote based sa constitution. Pero kanina government naghatag sila og kanang grant para kita tanan makabotar. So kinsa unsa nga Philippine government?
Dili siya tao. It's a kanang siya group or siya sector, di ba sa ano na siya. Wow, nakoy nakita sa Philippine Commonwealth Government. Grabe.
And that answer is from Camille Ocliesha. Grabe, nag-research man ni siya. Oy, grabe. Ko lagi ni siya prepared lagi kay ni siya kay daghan kay siya tama na answer. National Assembly napoy nag-ingon din hi.
Kusog sila wifi, no? Kusog.
Oo, kusog sila wifi. And the correct answer is Philippine Commonwealth Government. And mo pud ni siya ang kanang government ni Manuel L. Quezon.
Let's go to our last question. What year did the Filipino women receive the amendment to exercise right to vote and be voted in office?
Year lang siya, guys, ha? Year lang. Year. What year? What year? Ano kayo nakita? 946 daw, ana si Paul sa giyahon.
Brad, lower ba? Lower.
Ana po si Giro, 1935. Philip John Esguerra, 1937. And that is the correct answer. Philip Esguerra got the correct answer. 1937. And dapat yun tayo last question, Trix. Kani kay Republic Act. Magkuhan ko ani dako nga hope sa atong yung students, no? What Republic Act states that election for national posts should be held every second Monday of May? What Republic Act states that election for national posts should be held every second Monday of May?
Bro, feeling ako maka-answer daw ani Sam kay mga yung students.
O feel yun ako yung students ni siya, ilan ning strength? I mean, ilan di ba ning subject or unsa? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Wow, na ako'y nakita dito, oh.
Ana ko nakita. Ana si Dre, confirm jud, grabe. From Humes, Luke Adrian, Republic Act number 7056, and that is correct.
Correct.
And namin siya sa section 2. Sa section 2 na siya sa Republic Act number 7056, guys. Section 2.
Wow.
Grabe,
Congratulations
birthday
sa
boy!
mga nakasakto.
Mga pro tricks.
Grabe. Grabe yung energy, no? Sa answer sa comment section na itong mga fellow wizards. Makaingon kita nga, ay murag dili ra gid pang bardagulan ang kanang ability na magtubag-tubag sa ato ang mga fellow Kapitalians, fellow wizards. Right, Sam?
Tama, Tricks, no? Tama, yun kayo, Tricks. Kaya na sila foundation and background sa history sa atong Philippine national election, which is very good, no? Kay para ang history man gyud nga ato ang gipaglaban gyud ay no atong right to vote, especially sa mga babae, no? Nga mo na siya ang gahatag sa ato og kanang inspiration nga na mangita gitag worthy candidate para sa atong vote, worthy nga mag-lead sa atong country kay kani nga ato ang pag-right sa pagbotar kay ato yun ning gilaban. Dili ni siya kay dili siya gihatag sa tuwa nga basta-basta lang. Ato ni siyang gipaglaban.
Tinuod sa yun ang dapat.
So mo to siya, Tricks, no? Kay atoan namang nasugdan, abrihan na to ang talk sa worthy nga candidate. Kung kinsay worthy na candidate sa para sa tua. And katubong sa talk ni Doc Amor kaganina no nga ana siya nga dapat ang isa ka worthy na candidate magsunod sa atong CU core values. Mangutana ko sa mga Tricks ba? Unsa nga klase or quality or character trait sa isa ka leader ang imong ginapangita nga moingon ka nga, uy, kani siya, worthy ni siya sa akong vote. Worthy ni siya nga mudaog.
Kuan Sam, akong gusto nga mahimong leader sa usa ka nasod, sa usa ka lungsod kay kanang tawo nga naa kung pangitaon nato kailangan tag kanang tabang kung kano sa nay problema naa kay siya man atong gibutaran, di ba? Right, Sam? Ikaw, Sam, unsa man imong kanang gusto nga leader?
Ang sako ang gusto gyud nako nga leader, akong quality gyud nga ginasunod is kanang makamasa siya. Kay I believe man gyud kung makamasa ang isa ka tao, kung makamasa ang isa ka leader, masabtan niya ang plight or kanang mga laban bitaw sa kanang marginalized sector sa Philippines and kana by that makakonstruct siya kanang sakto na mga solutions and measures para elevate ang suffering sa atong kapwa na Pinoy. Kay mo man atong gusto, di ba, ang muunlad ang Pilipinas, ang murag makamtan nato ang equality tanan. So karon nga time mangutan ako sa comment section sa atong viewers kung please comment below kung unsa or nga mga characteristics or character traits ang inyohang mga gina-consider para matawag ang isang tao nga leader siya, para ma-consider siya nga worthy siya. Uy, ana si Ray, ang leader ko ay number 1, hindi sinungaling. At number 2, in the most difficult times, nagpapakita. I think I've seen this film before, Ray.
Ana po iningon nga, ana si Sir nga, dili diktador, ana si Sir Adrian Boras. Wow, so, no, unsa pa man guys, unsa pa man ato ang gusto.
Unsa pa, keep your comments coming. Oy, ana si Queenie, may plano.
Ana si Earl, hindi magnanakaw.
Grabe. So, keep your comments coming ba guys, kay mangutan na mi sa inyo ha. Ana si Tristan, unselfish.
Ana si Chrysler, kanang willing maminaw sa mga tao. Right? Sakto gid Sam, no? Willing maminaw sa mga tao.
Napapod si Rafael Bermejo, dapat kabalo sa timpla sa ka-group or members. Yes, kay para harmony no sa isa ka government. According to Wiljan Kabunok, a president who has the credentials, the transparency, actual work and programs, concrete plans, and a president that actually listens to the people. Wow, grabe ka concise and grabe ka Tricks. Mupakpak ko kay Englishan ta Tricks. Englishan ta.
Murag mo bow down tanog Englishan ta murag.
OMG, maka-proud kayo ang mga Capitalians, no? Nga kanang magpakita in the most difficult times. Tama kayo. Napapod isa, according to Angela Lim, the leader that has a big plan to develop the country. Tama.
Tama. So, enough for that, Sam. Napaminaw naman nato ilang opinion, ilang maggusto nga leader para sa isa ka lungsod, sa isa ka nasod. Karon, sunod paminaw nato ang tulo ka book nga gi-interview nato. Natay isa ka unregistered voter, first-time voter ug dugay na nga botante. So, take it away.
Usa sa grabe ka importante nga responsibilidad sa mga lungsuranon kay ang pagbotar. Ug nagtuo ko na ang pagbotar kay usa ka dakong responsibilidad sa matag legal nga lungsuranon. Ang pagboto pud nato kay dakong tabang nga mapahayag nato ang atong katungod ug opinyon kung kinsa ang manguna sa nasod para mapaayo kini. Importante pud ang pagbotar nato kay ato ni siyang katungod base sa mga balaod. Ug pinaagi sa pagbotar, ginahatagan nato og chance ang atong nasod ug kahigayonan nga mapaayos ang kaugmaon. Sama sa giingon sa usa ka sikat nga panultion, every vote counts because every vote is a voice that can kill change. Usa dapat kinigaan og importansya para sa maayong kaugmaon.
There is such a great importance that the right to vote holds for every citizen, because it is in our right to vote where we can express our interests, our ideas, and our voice. And by exercising our right to vote, we are also embracing and employing our individual power. And once we collectively use our power and consolidate it, it becomes a force and creates a massive impact that contributes to the change, improvement, and progress in our country.
Importante kaayo kini kay kita ang usa ka rason nga makahalal og usa ka kandidato nga kursunada mo tabang ug kursunada mo serbisyo kanatong mga Pilipino.
I think the advice that I would give from a voter to another is to really just discern for yourself. Ato jud ila-ilahon ang mga kandidato, know their credentials, their track record. And like I said, dapat ato ang butar kay naggikan sa sakto nga rason. And what I mean by that is that you should vote for a candidate that you genuinely believe in. O katong kandidato na naadjud kay pagsalig. Dili lang na magbutar ta aniyang kandidato kay sikat siya, or bubutar ta aniyang kandidato kay siya ang butaran ni kuan, so sige bubutar na lang pud ko niya, things like that. What I'm trying to say is that I believe that we all have the ability to think for ourselves, make decisions for ourselves. So we should use that ability. We should strengthen our minds to not get swayed by misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and any form of propaganda. Imuan ng katungod, imuan ng botar. Ayaw pagsugot ng ibang tao magdesisyon alang kanina. Huwag na ako ibigay na kanina. But don't answer to me. Answer to yourself. Kanong siya inubotaran para sa eleksyon?
Sobra ka importante kini kay panagsa lang ni mahitabo ug dapat dili nato sayahon. Dapat dili kita mutuo sa mga istorya-istorya ug dapat dili kita padala sa mga bayan. Dapat dili nato hatangan og katungod ning mga tawo nga kuhaan tag katungod. It is your first time to vote and it's your first time to make the right decision.
Isip mga botante, atong responsibilidad nga magbotar sa hustong tawo nga makahimo og maayong mga desisyon para sa atong nasod. Mao nga sa dili pa magsugod ang eleksyon ug kay layo pa ang atong 2022 elections, kailangan nga maghimo kita og daghang punukiduki o research bahin sa matag kandidato nga modagan sa 2022 elections. Sama na sa kanilang naging political pasundayag, ilang mga plataforma, ilang mga kaalyado, ilang mga kontribusyon o uban pang importanteng detalye nga kailangan nato mahibaw-an. Tungod kay ang naa sa usa ka politikong posisyon kay nagrepresentar sa 109 milyon nga Pilipino nga nakapuyo sa guwas ug tuslod sa atong nasod. Mao nga kay nahanglan nga makahibaluta kung kinsa ang atong iboto sa eleksyon. Ug dapat nga ang atong iboto kay base sa ginasulti sa atong kasing-kasing o sa atong hunahuna.
Kinahanglan nga dili nato isayawon nga oportunidad. Kinahanglan nga dapat nato kilatison og maayo ang usa ka kandidato ay nato ihatag ang atong sigurado nga boto. Kinahanglan nga dili kita motuo dayon og usa ka pege nga balita. Dapat dili kita modawat og bayad isip baylo sa atong boto. Ang atong pagbotar kay importante kini. Dili lang ni para sa atong pamilya, dili lang ni para sa atong kaugalingon, dili lang ni para sa atong mga igsuon, kundi para pud kini sa atong mga kauban nga mga Pilipino nga nagkinahanglan og maayo, nagkinahanglan og naay plano nga gobyerno para sa ila.
Importante ang matag eleksyon kay ang kaugmaon sa mga lungsuranon ang nakataya. Og nagtuo ko nga ang kini nga eleksyon, ang 2022 elections, kay dili pareha sa mga elections nga nilabay sa una. Aside from the fact na daghan ang pagbag-o kung sa unsaon pagbotar kay tungod sa pandemic, daghan pud ang mga issue nga gakahitabo karon sa kalibutan. Busa mas dako ang epekto sa opisyal nga atong botohon kaysa sa tanan natong mga eleksyon. Una, ang issue tali sa Ukraine ug Russia kay ang matag usa ka kandidato kay lahi-lahi ang opinyon. Tapos naa pa ang sa pandemya nga wala pa gyapon nasulbad hangtod karon. Kibali unique ni siya nga election kay ang mga maboto nato kay maghimo og big decision para sa ating nasod. Unya, kung ang isa ka sayop nga kandidato ang modaog, ang Pilipinas kay mabutang sa peligro nga makaapekto dili lang sa akong kaugmaon, pati pod sa imong kaugmaon o sa kaugmaon sa tibuok nasod. Busa sa padulungay nga eleksyon sa election 2022, dapat jud nato seryosohon ang pagboto kay para pod siya sa atong kaugmaon.
The May 2022 election is very important to me, especially as a first-time voter, because it is my first time contributing to a decision that is going to determine the compass of our country for the next 6 years. And as a first-time voter, I do feel a little bit of pressure in a sense that, of course, I should correctly shade the candidate talagang i-vote ko, di ba? Bawal makarang. But more importantly, I feel this pressure in terms of, am I choosing the right people to vote for, you know? Although I'm pretty secure naman with my bets, and I know that, and I believe that they are more than qualified. But I guess I feel this pressure because I know that our vote isn't a mere vote, and it's a stand for what we believe in. It's a stand for what we value as people, and more specifically, as a citizen in our country. And by voting for these people that we're voting for, we are giving them the power to represent us Filipinos, represent our ideas, our interests, and to lead our nation. But I think also, I feel this pressure because I care for the outcome of this election, and I care for how our country will move forward.
Trix, no, it's really nice to listen to the sentiments and opinions sa kanang mga tao pod nga from different sectors sa life, no? Si Sir Nelson nga teacher na, si Dre nga first time voter pa, and si Rika nga unregistered voter pa. And I would like to kanang highlight what Sir Nelson and Dre said nga kanina umaabot na 2022 elections dili lang ni para sa tua. Yes, I would like to also debunk the term nga uy ako man ni butar so ngano mabuot man ka sa kuha nga unsa day pakinimong ako man ni entitled ko ni. So contrary to that belief no nga entitled ta sa tuang own vote, natay ginatawag na social responsibility and social accountability. So kita tanan accountable ta nga magpili og leader nga kanang makatabang collectively as a whole kay dili ang mga ihalal nato kay sila ang mag ano sa ato ang nasa Trix ba sila ang maghatag sa ato ang daan kung mo progress ba ta or dili. Tama ba ko Trix?
Tama Sam. Dapat ang isa ka tao accountable gyud sa iyang gi-choose, sa iyang gipili sa mga choices niya sa kinabuhi. And speaking of accountable, our second code is accountability.
Accountability. So again, ang second code kay accountability. Please do take note sa mga codes and do not share it. So, magkakita na ako ng mga flood sa comments Trix ba?
Oo.
Pila ko na sila bets?
Na sila bets. Feeling sad na ako sa. So, aside anang accountable, dapat responsable pud ta nga botante no, responsable ang isa ka tawo nga momili. Pag mamili na sila, pag mubutar na sila karon maabot na eleksyon. So karon ipahigayon nato sa sunod nato nga activity, maghatag og tips or steps unsaon or unsa ilang buhaton para labi na sa mga first time voters og sa kato mga botante daan nga basin nalimot na sa unsa ba ka ang kailangan buhaton para sa umaabot na May 9 election. So gana nato.
Ang eleksyon sa tuig 2022 kay paspas ang pagduol. Ug sa mga rehistradong botante ng mga Pilipino na paspas nga gigahin, kini sigurado nga magbag-o sa nasod nga adunay maayong kaugmaon. Isip usa ka responsableng batanon, importante ang atong mga boto. Importante kita sa atong lig-on nga tinuha sa pagpili og tarong nga leader nga haom sa kauswagan sa atong nasod. Uban sa kapin sa 31 milyon ka mga young adult nga botante ang narehistro sumala sa COMELEC niadtong tuig 2021. Kini nga gidaghanon mudaghan sa dili pa ang umaabot nga eleksyon sa Mayo 9 tuig 2022. Busa, ang inyong boto maoy among paglaom. Andam na ba mo nga mobutar karong umaabot nga Mayo 9? Apan nagduha-duha gihapon sa proseso, ayaw kabalaka. Kay atong hisgutan ang proseso sa pagboto sa atong Youth Guide for First Time Voters. Arat na!
Step 1. Siguruha nga markahan ng imong oras o pag-andam og lista kung kinsa ang imong botaran ay haang adlaw sa eleksyon. Sa tanan nga bahin sa nasod, ang mga butuhan magbukas sa alas 6 sa buntag ug magsira sa alas 7 sa gabihi. Sa dili pa mo padayon sa pagbotar, siguruha nga mag-andam og listahan kung kinsay imong botaran ay haang Mayo 9 aron malikayan ang paghimong aksidente sa pagmarka sa mga baluta nga mahimong mabasa sa vote count machine or VCM. Step 2. Sa adlaw na panahon sa eleksyon, siguruha nga ipacheck ang imong temperature sa dili pa mosulod sa voting center. Kini aron masiguro nga ang mga botante nagsunod sa health and safety protocol. Step 3. Adto sa Voters Assistant Desk or VAD para itudlo ang imong polling percent o sequence numbers o usa ka gi-assign nga kwarto para makabotar. Step 4. Adto sa imong gi-assign nga room og ipaila ang imong ngalan, gi-assign nga present og sequence numbers sa electrical board. Siguruha nga magdala usab sa imong mga valid ID aron mapamatud-an ang imong identification sa adlaw sa eleksyon. Step 5. Kuhaa ang imong balota, ballot secrecy folder, marker ug sulatan ang balota sa voting area. Siguruha nga iboto ang imong mga boto nga maalamon.
Step 6. Sa pag-fill up sa balota, siguruha nga fully shaded ang oval nga makita at tubangan sa ngalan sa kandidato nga gusto nimong botaran. Ang pag-undervoting o pag-overvoting mahimong makawala sa pag-ihap sa imong boto. Iboto lamang ang numero nga gipakita sa matag posisyon. President. Vote for a maximum of 1 candidate. Vice President. Vote for a maximum of 1 candidate. Senator. Vote for a maximum of 12 candidates. House of Representatives. Vote for a maximum of 1 candidate. Mayor. Vote for a maximum of 1 candidate. Vice Mayor. Vote for a maximum of 1 candidate. Party list. Vote for a maximum of 1 group. Step 7. Isulod ang balota ngadto sa vote counting machine or VCM. Step 8. I-check ang imong voter's receipt ug ihulog kini sa receptacle tapad sa vote counting machine or VCM nga gihatag sa COMELEC. Step 9. Siguruha nga ang imong right forefinger kay markahan og indelible ink. Step 10. Biyai ang polling precinct.
Ania ang pipila ka dugang ang mga butang nga hinumduman. Ayaw pagkuha og mga litrato o video sulod sa polling place o pagkuha og mga litrato sa imong balota o sa imong resibo. Gikonsiderar kini nga election offense. Gamita lang ang official marker nga gihatag sa precinct aron ma-shade imong vote. Ayaw dad-a sa balay ang marker o ballot secrecy folder. Ayaw idugmok, igisi o pila ang balota.
That's all mga Kapitolians! Hali na kay mubutar na ta alang sa maayong kaugmaon ug kalambuan sa mahal natong nasod nga Pilipinas. Ug ayaw ninyong kalimtig na your vote is our only hope.
Gabi tricks. Atong 6-minute long video ra to siya no. Tapos kanang daghan kay kog natun-an tricks murag na-gear na ko no, ready na ko sa upcoming May 9, 2022 elections and naka-decide ko tricks ba nga ay maghimo na lang gyud kog list sa ko ang mga pangutaran no kay lisod sad og i-shade nato duha di ba? Sa isa ra dapat ka position. Dapat isa ra jud ang i-shade. I-shade nato ang sakto na number dili ta magpataka. Based sa giingon nila sa video, di ba, Trix?
Yes, Sam, tama. Tapos nakakuan ko nga, hala, kaniday nga position sa gobyerno nga ato ang i-shade kay abutaran kay isa ra di dapat na ako nabala ng party list kay 178 kabuk ang naa karon. So 178 kabuk akong pilian tapos isa ra di akong puan, di ba? I-shade mo na. Pasalamat ko kay naapod ni apil sa ato ang election empowerment apil ni siya.
Tama, Trix. Gabi kay ko ka-thankful kay, according to my research, no, 56% of the total population sa mga registered and credible nga mag-vote for this upcoming May 2022 elections kay from the youth sector. So, gikan sa to, more than half sa population. So dako gid kay tag impact ani kung kinsa atong botaran. So the youth shall discern carefully and decide carefully, no, given sa katong core values sa CU o ganang sa katong atong mga na-discuss karon, no, sa during this election empowerment event.
Tinuod, no, nga makaingon gyud ta nga sa karon bitaw nga election naagi ka ng power na ay kakayanan ang youth sector nga mabag-uhon ang resulta sa eleksyon. Muna nga akong gihangyo sa mga fellow nga kabataan nato, pariha nato nga kabatan-unan, ayuhon nato og pagbotar, labi na kay buena mano kaayo, no, ang atong pagbotar ihatag gid nato sa deserving, worthy na ay kakayanan nga mag-lead sa atuang nasod. Dili nato sayangon natong isa ka boto kay reflection ni siya sa unom ka tuig, labi na sa atong nasod, di ba? Unom ka tuig mag-reflect sa atuang tibok nasod na kung sayop atong mahabutang sa pwesto, unsaon na lang ang atong kaugmaon. Right, Sam?
Yes, unsaon na lang gyud ang ato ang dream sa future, unsaon na lang ang ato ang mga kanang kita nga mga youth kay driven baya ta sa ato ang passion, sa ato ang commitment. Unsaon na lang gyud nato nag-exercise kung mabutar nato, mahalal nato ang dili worthy sa pwesto, di ba? So in this sa kanina moment, gusto ko magpasalamat daan sa inyong pag-uban. Sugod sa sinugdanan hangtod karon nga hapit na pahumanay ang atong election empowerment. Daghan kay kog nakatunan o unta kamo po, di ba? Daghan bag nakatunan sa comment section. Kay ako daghan jud kay kog na learn and katong from Doc Amor's message to the last nga guide for first time voters.
True, Sam. Daghan gid tayo, no. Salamat kaayo sa tanan, salamat sa pagpaminaw kanamo og unta nga naamoy napudyot sa kaning kadyot nga ato ang pag-uban-uban diri. Ako si �10𝐿𝐲.
Ako si Maria Samantha Manaloto og kaming magpabilin sa panultihon na kung kami ang kaugmaon
ato nang sugdan karon.
Eleksyon na usab.
Kung sa unang higayon, ako makabotar na. Eleksyon na happy.
Ug daghan ang niingon na unsa bay malay nako sa politika.
Ing-ani na lang ba kita?
Wala ba mo kapuya? Sa balik-balik nga saad matag kampanya.
Sa paglantaw sa uban na ang kabatan-unan, kay dili makialam kung ihimong katawanan, kay lagi bata pa.
Sumon na!
Husto na. Kung dili kami, kinsa pa ba?
Ako?
Konsisyon. Kung dili ka, kanusa man mininyo paminawon. Kami naman, kabataan naman.
Panahon na ng pagpili, panahon na ng halalan.
Madami namang kandidato, madaming mukha at pangalan.
Sino kaya ang bagay sa ating bansa? Hindi lamang porma't salita. Sino kaya? At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan.
Sino kaya mananalo at magiging totoo?
Sa pagnanais ng tao, umunlad sa madaling panahon. Sino man siya, pag-asa kaya ang dala. Sana naman, sana siya'y tuwid at tapat sa bansa.
At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng bilangan, Sana naman ang manalo ay taong bayan. La 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 la.
Sana naman isipin ang kapakanan ng mga mamamayan, maging gabay sa lipunan. At sana kahit na sinong manalo, pagkatapos ng ulangan, sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan. Sana naman ang panalo ay taong bayan. Sing and bless all your children, love, devotion, and faith. Sing enough and many festivals of vision and of faith. Voices echo in unison, all our hearts beat as one, singing together the same song, ever grateful for all you have done. Let to thee our alma mater, hail, hail, be forevermore. We may cross the oceans and the hills while we travel, a treasure from shore to shore. See you, light of our nation, sail on thy voyage, come and smooth. You are our dedication, dedication to our roots. And to thee, our alma mater, hail, hail, be forevermore. We may cross the oceans and the hills while we travel, the treasure from shore to shore. See you, pride of our nation, sail on thy voyage, come and smooth. You are our dedication, dedication to our